Really, for the real estate landscape for developers, it's quite challenging, right? Because first you have the infrastructure deficit,
Okay.
where if you want to build a home, you have to even build infrastructure.
So, like, when you say infrastructure, do you mean like light, water? You mean like road?
Power, water, even up to road level sometimes. You actually have to build those road systems so you can connect to the mainstream city systems as well.
Okay.
So in addition to infrastructure, challenges, we have the cost of funds. If you're going to a typical national bank to get money, you're looking at between 20 to 32%.
I feel like most of our listeners are not very financeable. So what I'm trying to say is, if I go and borrow 100,000 from the bank, every year I take that money, I'm going to pay back 120,000.
130,000, as high as that actually.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of To Be Quite Honest podcast. As usual, I have with me the very beautiful co-host.
Very beautiful.
And today we also have two very beautiful looking ladies.
Also intelligent.
That's why they're on set. And please, just tell our audience who you are
everyone.
And what you do at Mixta.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tolu Adebule. And I'm a product manager at Mixta Africa.
Great.
And essentially, I've been in the industry for about 7 years.
Okay.
So I've been in the sector pretty much, across the different segments of the value, across the real estate value chain.
Okay.
Right, so I started in the paint industry where I was there for about 6 years.
Okay.
Chasing up the real estate guys to get to get the big projects where we can actually, get the jobs, do the renovation, do the screening, and then the final finishing of the project. And then I moved on to core real estate where I am presently.
All right, great. So now you used to be the one chasing us. Now
I used to be the one chasing.
Not that chasing.
You're being chased now.
I hope you can run fast.
Very fast.
All right, so
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Gboyinde Sodipo. I work with Mixta Real Estate as a product manager for Do. That's a rent-to-own scheme. I'll say I'm a finance person. That's my background. So I've had experience in different industries. And right now I have 4 years experience in the real estate industry. So back to back, I say my current interest is around infrastructure, development, and, the likes.
that's interesting. I have a finance background myself, and
Really?
you do as well.
How do you know?
You do. So
How do you not have a
I
finance
think real estate
background?
is interesting to finance people, and
Yes,
that's great to see.
Yeah, it really is,
True.
I think it's very interesting. So today, our guests here with us are just going to speak very briefly, or hopefully, because I feel like they're very knowledgeable and they want to talk, but you guys just relax, about alternative pathways to, homeownership. And this is like both ends, because a lot of times I know like a big issue for everyone that's in the real estate value chain, so even developers and like final consumers, is finance. So we're going to touch on both ends. So just like how developers are faring funding, how homeowners are faring funding. But before we begin, I want to find out, do any of you own your homes? I don't, so feel comfortable, tell the truth. Don't lie.
I don't either.
Don't lie.
Okay, I do.
Okay.
Great.
Go girl.
No,
Ben, what
because I'm
about you?
rich.
Well, you have a house, so
Yeah, you're rich. You can't
that's not how you
sugarcoat
want
it.
to. How I want to spin it. You own your house, but that's good. Congrats.
Okay.
So, yes, I just wanted to get into it real quickly. So, tell me. I know that you've been in the real estate value chain, so I know that you know how it works from both outside and inside. What are the challenges that you find developers experience when it comes to sort of raising funding for products, for generating products, for creating homes, that sort of thing?
Thank you, Ray. Really, for the real estate landscape for developers, it's quite challenging, right? Because first you have the infrastructure deficit.
Okay.
Where if you want to build a home, you have to even build infrastructure.
So, like, when you say infrastructure, do you mean like light, water? You mean like road?
Power, water, even up to road level sometimes. You actually have to build those road systems so you can connect to the mainstream city systems as well.
Okay.
So in addition to infrastructure, challenges, we have the cost of funds. If you're going to a typical national bank to get money, you're looking at between 20 to 32%.
I feel like most of our listeners are not very financeable. So what I'm trying to say is, if I go and borrow 100,000 from the bank, every year I take that money, I'm going to pay back 120,000.
130,000, as high as that actually.
Oh, okay.
Back to the banks.
Whether or not I sell the house I took the money to borrow for.
Exactly.
Okay. Just to make it very clear.
I think just to put it in perspective as well, how I can describe it is, so for example, you want to build a multifamily unit, apartment blocks, maybe a ground plus 2, for example.
Okay.
That's going to take you on the average about 18 months to build.
Okay.
You've gone to the bank. Maybe at most they give you like a 3-4 year. That's also part of the challenges. It's also try to give you very short tenors.
Yeah.
Right. So they give you 3-4 years. It's going to take you 18 months to build. That's about a year and a half gone.
Yeah.
Even before you start the snags fixing, before you even start selling, it's almost 3 years are up. Right. So before you start, because
you're paying interest.
Exactly.
And I haven't still sold it.
Exactly. And the way real estate is done is it's a mix of financing. So you have equity plus your debt as well. So you've gotten part of it from the banks. The other part is a pre-sale, aspect. So for example, you've gotten the money from the bank. The 3 years up, you've not even started getting your 3-sale revenue.
So when you say pre-sale, you mean like I sold it to people like to come and buy before the house is ready?
Yeah,
Exactly.
off-taker.
Okay, so like an off plan. So like sort of it's cheaper if you come now that it's not there. Well, okay, we'll get into the risks of that. But tell me now, what are the challenges around even getting the people to come and buy before the house is built?
The challenge
Is that like I know like Nigeria is a very low trust society. That's what I'm asking.
We essentially, people have been duped. People have had really bad experiences.
Yeah.
So getting someone so for example, for you to sell real estate someone, you have to be a company with track record. Right, you have that experience. People know you in the market. They know your brand name because people have been burnt in the past. So that is one hurdle I know real estate companies, are battling with at the moment. I don't know if Gboyinde has some other ones that.
No, I actually want to ask Gboyinde from the side of a homeowner, of a final consumer.
Exactly.
So I want to split it both ways. So she'll play like devil's advocate and be like, you know what, I actually own my home and these are challenges I experience. But I know you are in the industry, like you're core in the, like you've been on both ends. So I feel like you have like a very unique perspective that you can bring to the conversation around this. That's why I asked you first. That's why I'm bullying you or anything. I'm just like, I wanted to know from your own point of view. What are the challenges? Minus funding, minus lack of infrastructure.
Also delivery as well, from when you look at inflation. So for example, you've gotten money from the bank to build a home. Between when you start your development and when you actually finish delivery,
Cost of
everything inflation have taken roots. What you bought for 1 hour yesterday is 10 hour tomorrow. So sometimes this impacts your delivery timelines as well, which also doesn't help with the trust level. For the home buyers who you've told you're going to get your property in 2024. In 2026, there's still nothing standing. That's also another challenge.
Problems everywhere. It's tough.
We also have
Are you done?
No, she had not finished. We're telling us more problems.
Please, we're still open to learn.
Telling us more problems.
We also have the issue of collateral as well. Adequate collateral. So sometimes if you expect for small scale and medium scale, developers who don't quite have the capital outlay, right? So they are not able, or they don't have their own land bank, for example. So when it comes to collateralizing, that's usually a challenge for them as well.
When you say collateralizing, what do you mean? Like you bring something into the bank to hold in case you run away with
Absolutely. It's commonplace. You want to go get money from the banks, you need to give them yourself, your grandmother, your granddad, your entire village.
I want kidney,
And the way it is just, for example, you want to buy a car. So first, they're going to keep the title of the car, the document, the car papers. You're also going to domicile your salary. So it's not just that asset they get from you, right? You also have to. So there's a risk of over collateralizing as well. For a developer. So for a developer who is still small or medium scale, these are actually real issues, real hurdles, for them to deal with.
That's really interesting. And so when you now pack all these problems together, how does it affect the final cost of what they're selling? Because remember you said that the person that came to buy, there was nothing. That person will not buy the same price that the person that came and saw building standing will buy.
Absolutely.
So how does this affect the pricing?
Yeah, so that's why, you realize that companies are having to revise prices as
every other day,
every other quarter, every other month. So you've gone to someone's website, you've seen 100 million property. You go there in the next 3 months, it's already 150 million. And this is not far-fetched. Why in Nigeria, just even go to a supermarket, you've gone to buy a sardine, for example, which was maybe 800 last month. You go back, things are just not static anymore. And that's because of the market forces, everything happening in Ukraine, Russia, the supply chain, everything just pretty much from the macro. It distills down to the micro, and we are essentially a consuming economy, right? So a lot of the inputs we require come from abroad. So it's impacted by your forex volatilities, and some other factors that just jack up those prices.
These challenges
as well.
are tough.
I mean,
but you see, in all of these challenges, Gboyinde has conquered.
exactly, yeah.
I know.
She has bought her own Gboyinde. So in fact, I don't feel like maybe you have survival bias.
Well,
Because I feel like you have succeeded when many have failed. When many have failed. Because even if the person that's building the house telling you that the problems I'm having, and then you are saying, but I have conquered. Please come and tell me, what did you do? How did you get to the finish line? As the final consumer in the real estate value chain, tell me some of the challenges you think. I mean, you're not facing them again, except you're going to buy another house. But tell me some of the things that you experienced when you're trying to buy your first one. And then also, let's just talk about challenges that people that would not have the access that you have will currently experience if they want to buy in this current economic climate.
I'll say, I think first, the major challenge that a final consumer would face in getting a property is the aspect of its mindset, asking him or herself that, is it possible for me to own a home at a particular age? Because, say, in our general economy, it's expected that until when you've blown or you've gotten to a particular standard or a level that you can actually gather money together and actually acquire a home. Nobody actually thinks of the alternative funding solutions that you could tap into. So because of that, everybody thinks of a traditional route of either inheriting the home or bringing a huge amount of money to buy the home.
Like marrying a rich man.
Marrying a rich man, exactly.
Which is tested and trusted and has worked for years. I don't know why we have to change it.
But that's not the easiest way to actually acquire a property.
Why? Because a lot of children.
A lot of people would
be
waiting
before it gets to your turn.
Yes. And at the end of the day, some people don't eventually even have properties. But on my end, I kind of looked at it that, how else can you actually acquire a home even if you don't have so much money? Okay. So that's now using the alternative sources, just as we mentioned, having alternative solutions to getting real estate properties, like the mortgage aspect. Okay. And that was what helped me.
You took a mortgage?
Yes. So taking a mortgage actually assisted
Talk us through that process. I want to hear this.
Okay. So, everybody knows, or let me not say everybody, many people are aware of the NHF, that's National Housing Fund. That's a mortgage aspect. Once you are a fully employed person, your company is expected to actually contribute on your behalf towards that
so they deduct from your salary and remit to NHF.
Yes. Okay. And that is like one of the cheapest loans in Nigeria today to actually acquire property. The loan is there about 6% compared to
30% that Tolu was just talking about.
Exactly, from a direct bank. So one of the companies that's company.
You can speak freely. This is a safe space. Come on, go ahead.
Compared to other real estate companies, I say Mixta Real Estate actually helped out in putting out different alternatives, different solutions. How exactly can they make people buy more properties instead of just using the traditional routes of bringing lump sum amount. Okay. So one of their initiatives far back as 2019 was to collaborate with the Federal Mortgage Bank and have access to the NHF, help people basically go through that process of getting NHF. I know we Nigerians, once it comes to process, we try to...
We want to use agent.
We want to use agent or shortcuts. We don't want to go through that stress. Fair. So Mixta stood in that gap to enable people to acquire that NHF, and that's what really helped them to push out their name, to push out most of their affordable products, and they were able to have approximately 150 sales through the mortgage scheme itself. And I was one of them that tapped into that.
Was it like very competitive to get into? I feel like things like people be rushing. Yeah, like 100 slots. Everybody will now be, how it is now. Everybody like pushing. Was it like that?
Well,
was it like first come first? Was it very orderly?
For we Nigerians, we're always very skeptical and we're always very scared when we say anything new. We first take like 5 steps back when we see that most people are jumping and coming to take, then everybody wants to. So initially in 2019, it was like they were begging us literally to key into the NHF mortgage, and but by 2022, when people started hearing about the success of how some people were able to get the NHF, and how much did you have to pay as an initial deposit then? Less than, say, the minimum was, I think, 250K.
Say God.
That you had to pay as an initial deposit, and they would help you with the process. Please, no lie with that thing now.
Okay, so that's what you do.
So I think I have two questions regarding that process. First of all, she asked whether I was really competitive to access the fund.
Yeah.
But my question is, the process itself, how
Yeah, what are the touch
seamless
points?
was it?
Just walk us through.
And then secondly, after accessing
this
the
is
money,
3 questions.
how? I mean, do you have
hope
to
I
have like
remember.
really deep pockets to access this kind of
Yeah.
funding? Because I mean, that's something that would sort of
Deter
discourage
you,
people.
yeah.
Maybe like, I mean, I have three kids in secondary school.
Wow, now
One of them is
time
planning to go to
on the
university.
university,
Do you understand? So,
Yes.
is it seamless? And do you require like really deep pockets to access this kind of funding and pay back over time?
Okay, I hope you remind me of the
Let's
second
start.
other
Let's
question.
start. Hold on, walk
But
us through,
first,
like, okay,
the
what
process.
Yeah.
No, like every other national process, it's always daunting. Whether you want to take a passport, you want to do anything at
Driver's
all,
license.
driver's
It's
license,
long.
it's always long.
Tell me
So
about it, yeah.
if you have somebody to stand in your place for that process, it actually helps. So, like I mentioned, Mixta actually did that process, but knowing that this was actually what they went through, it was not easy to get disbursements from FMB, and
Okay,
it took
no,
quite.
we're jumping. Let's start from. Okay, you
Yeah.
fill the form.
Yes, okay.
So you came. They said bring 250K.
As the initial deposit.
I'll fill the form.
Yeah.
I will do the rest for you. And
Yes.
just give you a house. Or how did it work?
So, yes, they said bring this money. That's the process.
That's the first one.
As
Okay.
initial deposits. Then afterwards, we got introduced to the PMIs that gave us the forms.
Okay, so my listeners are
So who are
educated, but
PMIs?
that's what I'm going to
Apologies.
explain like we're
Break it
fine.
down.
Like we want
Who
to
are
enter, so it needs to be
PMIs?
very clear. Because a lot of times when we do the podcast, people actually reference it for like real estate knowledge. So whenever our guests come, we always tell them as much as
basic
possible,
as possible.
Yeah.
Break it
so
down.
that even if it's like the first time you hear of it, you can refer to it over and over again, and it's very explanatory. So when you say they said you should pay 250K, then you kidding. That year was no more 250K. Somebody should come back and say,
No, it's not
that
more
was then. No.
250.
And then you filled out the form. And Mixta said, we brought some people to you. And so who are these people they brought now?
So that's the primary mortgage,
Mortgage
institution.
institution.
So
Okay.
they are the intermediaries that help you access the loan from FMB, and that's Federal Mortgage Bank of
So
Nigeria.
just so we're clear, Federal Mortgage Bank and NHF, I did the same thing.
So Federal Mortgage Bank is the bank that disburses the NHF. NHF is the fund.
fund.
Okay.
The amount
great.
itself.
So all the money that we've been contributing is NHF.
Yes.
Is there. Federal Mortgage Bank is the one in charge of sharing this money.
Exactly.
PMIs are the people in the middle that will take the money from the FMBN that's taken from NHF to give it to your developer
Yes.
to build your
After
house.
qualifying
Yes.
you first.
After
So the
right?
PMIs,
Qualifying,
okay, so the PMIs will meet you, you interview you, kind of like a visa
Yes.
interview.
Yes.
And then they say, oh, this is what you need. What are the things they ask?
So the major criteria was first your age brackets, because they want to know how many years
You
they
have
can give
left.
you the loan.
Okay.
They also want to know what your salary level is. They want to know how many months have you contributed.
Okay.
How much loan amount are you requesting for? In relation to the amounts you're earning per month.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Then afterwards, they also want to know if you have any other credit facility, if you have any other loan,
Okay.
that is run at the moment. So all that helps them to
What
determine.
if you lie?
Oh,
You
so
can't
they
lie.
also finally on their end, they also do a credit check.
back end.
on their back
So you
end.
can't lie.
Yes.
Listeners,
so-
don't lie, guys. They'll catch you. Okay.
Yes. So I think the second question was
Before we even get to that, I just because I mean I'm thinking someone who's watching this
Yeah,
might have
wants
this
to
question
know
back of their
ahead.
mind.
Okay.
When they're considering things like how much you earn, in relation how much you earn in relation to how much
you
you
want to
most likely
borrow.
be paying back and possibly how much you want to borrow, do they put into consideration things like how much your spouse earns?
I was going to say that.
okay. So
Or is it just the applicant's
Individual,
information
yeah.
alone that is being considered?
So I would say for my case now, it was my spouse and I that actually
Applied.
collaborated
Okay,
to do
okay.
that. So, but the PMIs, that's the primary mortgage bank, will only deal with one person.
Okay.
So, if you have additional information or additional income,
You will now show them.
dispose to them, let them know that, aside from my individual salary, I'm doing a joint investment with my spouse, and collaboratively, this is our monthly salary. So they
Okay, so they'll
consider
consider
that.
that.
As
So
well.
that's what,
Yes.
like, okay, one of the things the PMIs will use.
Yes.
To. Okay, that makes sense. Like, that's a very good question.
Yeah, and I think that would even help a lot more people
Yeah, so a
qualify.
lot of people,
Yes.
because a lot of people just think, oh, if I want to take like a loan, I have to do it myself. But just knowing that you can actually provide your spouse's income, or you can buy with your mom, or you can buy who has like pension or whatever. So I mean, it's nice to know that there are really alternatives aside just going into
Yes,
loans.
yes.
All right, so
I
continue.
mean, and this is a breath of fresh air, really, because what we're mostly used to is just
Packing
saving,
your money,
your
saving
money
your
all
stacking
money.
up all the money,
Or
and
buying land and waiting.
exactly.
Okay, I'm
Or,
a
you know, normal way, marrying a rich man. Tested and trusted, guys. All right,
So
so
the second
continue.
question is what, please?
Okay,
If
so
you don't mind.
now you have
remember.
bought the property. Now you have
remember,
bought. Now
no.
you've bought the property, right? You're living in it, right?
Okay.
Okay, so how repayment?
I was going to
how
say.
how
Okay.
is it a burden or is it
Well,
easy?
it's cheap. It's 6%.
Well, that's one important thing. The loan is actually cheap, 6%. So as much as possible, if you're even getting any mortgage, the mortgage has to be at least relatively cheap. Then two, on my case, I was doing a joint with my spouse,
Contribution.
joint
Okay.
contribution, so it made it easier. And then the number of years that you then determine to take the loan for also reduces the amount that you have to pay,
pay back.
monthly.
So-
So
For example, if I'm paying, for instance, that's not much is paying. But if maybe you took 10 million and it's 10 years, it means you pay back 1 million every year. But if it's 20 years, you pay 500K back every
Exactly,
year. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
like that. So at least, and you don't have to then look at it as big as you paying one lump sum. You can do as much as monthly.
Oh,
break it
so you
down.
can even that 500K per annum. You can even break it
Yes.
down to 12 months.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. So PMI,
Primary
I'm sure we
mortgage.
already know PMI.
We don't. Let's
Let's call them
Let's call them-
mortgage banks.
mortgage
Okay,
banks.
fine. Let's call
Yeah.
them mortgage
Okay.
banks.
So the mortgage banks are
Did they
also
waste a lot of
flexible.
your time?
Well, so the good thing was if you have the good thing about process is if you have all the documents ready, it's not like when they ask you
Go and bring
week one, you then come back in June. They ask you for another thing, you come back in December. So if you have everything ready, it takes less than maybe 3 to 6 months to actually complete a process and have your disbursement.
Oh, really?
So it was quite easy. And when I was working in a mortgage bank, my representative was actually very happy with the fact that I was always responsive to him.
Quickly, yeah.
okay.
Yes, so I guess that was why I was one of the people that got my disbursements as early as say 2019. Yeah.
I think I see why your first response to the question was about the mindset.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's where I was
Yes.
going.
I see it.
Yes,
Because, I
it's
mean,
quite
Something you have to
For-
stay ready. You have to get ready. You can't just be when they are calling you now. Start looking
Exactly.
for
everything.
what kind of documentation, like on average, or like my marriage certificate. What, I know because you do with your spouse. That's what I'm asking. Like what kind of stuff?
Well, first,
we need to
one
put
important thing is pay your tax, people.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yes, your ETC card as citizen, they have
Your
to
what?
check.
Like your tax e-tax card.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So they have to check that. They have to check your probably your identification card, whether it be your driver's license, NI, then
passport,
your
okay.
passport, then letter of reference from your employer,
Okay.
your pay slip, your booklets, which is very
Okay, the
important,
NHF
the NHF
booklet,
booklet
okay.
to show that you've
You're
been
actually
contributing.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's part of the ones I can remember offhand now. Yeah.
So if you want to buy, like if you want to use an alternative funding source, you need to actually start putting your stuff together. Like things like, I'll give you an example. Some people have NIS from passports. It's going to delay you.
Exactly.
So you get like all of those things. So you need to really
Have
be
it
ready
sync.
as well. I get that's really important. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to Tolu now. You know, you had
Tolu,
mentioned
Tolu is going to buy tomorrow. Because she's listening. Tolu is like, you know what? I have NIS. I have passport.
you know,
Don't worry, I'm
from,
putting myself together.
from the things you had shared earlier, it would appear that, you know, development is one of the hardest things to do in Nigeria right now.
Close to impossible.
You know,
in
it
fact.
is it's really difficult, right? So, I mean, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are still building, are still churning out houses on a daily, on a weekly, on
If
a
you
monthly.
see that like
Even a
corridor,
slice of a house.
look, it's even a silver. Like they are building like there's no tomorrow.
you know, so
With all these
Correct.
problems.
what are ways that developers are, you know, what are
Walkarounds. That
Those
what are
alternative
workarounds,
ways.
yes,
Yeah.
around these challenges that you had earlier identified?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, right now, these days, I'm sure you hear a lot about crowdfunding, branching out
Yeah,
ownership here and
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
people are now pulling large number of people together, you know, getting them to crowdfund their projects for them. And that's patient capital because it's equity of sorts, right? Because you don't have any obligation to pay them back, right? Maybe after a certain period, you can now start giving them some value appreciation of sorts.
Okay.
You know, but of course, the downsides to that is the fact that, you
You're
know,
not
because
100
these...
people instead of one person.
and also because, you know, this mechanism is done via an online platform.
Okay.
You have to pay percentage
Yes.
of whatever monies they've contributed, you know, as a fee of sorts. We also have JVs, you know, you can partner with another investor or another developer on a project, right? So that's an alternative to going to the banks to get money. You also have your Bank of Industries. Those are
Okay.
still lenders that give you credit at
Low rates.
10% or 12%.
Do they really fund
you know.
developers? Do they?
Yeah, they do. Well, of course, you have to have, that track record. You have to meet the criteria. Those people are not easy to get money
Yeah,
from. You have your
yeah.
shafts, your shelter Afriques. You have your, Infra Africa. But these are, a lot of the times, they're also multilateral organizations.
What does that even mean? What's multilateral?
These are pretty much organizations that they are private arms of your international finance institutions.
Okay.
Usually consisting of several member countries.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, your Infra Africa, it's governments of UK, Netherlands, and Switzerland that come together. So, because of that, they are
Due
also
diligence is diligence.
Yeah, they're guided by
And
international
something
laws.
else, you can't default when you're getting money from.
I'm just saying, like, you have to
from
go
a
and
company
borrow
formed by
from-
3 governments.
But the rates are usually a lot friendlier than what you
Than
get
what
your
you get
local
locally,
market.
yeah. Okay.
So besides your equity, of course, with equity is the best alternative method because there's absolutely no obligation. You
But
just set a stake of your company or a stake of your
Is it very
project.
scarce? Is it to find people
Yeah,
outside
it's
to buy
not
your-
easy. It's not
So
easy
you
to
won't buy
get
the thing you are
equity, to
selling
be
in the
honest
first
with you.
place. It's not easy.
It's not easy to get equity
Okay.
for real estate because projects are expensive. I'm not talking about millions. We're talking about billions in a lot of the cases.
And are they usually successful?
Well, yeah, there are lots of success
As in, when we define
stories,
success as you
like-
sold it and you returned the money. You borrowed.
And you
That's
still
what-
have
I
some
still
for
have something
yourself.
left to say I did something to come and see. Like,
Well, they are successful. By the end of the day, when you look at small scale developers, or I think for now the best approach is the crowdfund.
okay.
Crowdfund or JV with someone else that is either more credible in the industry or just has the money. Yeah, a lot of people in this country that
They
have
have
money just
money.
sitting.
Yeah.
So if you have, it also comes down to you having a solid business plan.
Okay.
Showing what your cash flows are and just maintaining positive cash flows, doing your market surveys, your analysis, pretty much just having
Problem I have with
projections that
Nigeria is
support.
anything can happen. This is so unstable.
So one common denomination I noticed from your story and what you've just said is the importance of maintaining relevant documents as individuals and even as organizations.
organizations.
So
Absolutely.
if you were not someone who thought it was necessary to
Have a tax
update your
card,
tax
everything.
records, have the tax card, girl, you were able to supply those documents because you pretty much had them
Exactly.
handy.
Just at hand, yeah.
And for the developers, those who can access funding from this kind of people are people who have their books.
Yeah, they've
put
kept their things. They're together.
Already.
They're really
Yeah.
put together. You have to be put together to be able to even get any sort of funding.
Audience from the first
This
Yeah,
place.
exactly.
international
Audience, first of all.
corporation.
Yeah.
Audience first. So that's a major learning from all of this. So back to you, Gboyinde. How does it feel?
To be a homeowner.
Yeah, to be a homeowner. How does it feel? I
It
mean,
feels great. Please.
Well, true.
You're not paying rent.
because for the
Great,
most part,
I know.
unless you tell someone you went the mortgage route,
They
nobody
wouldn't know.
knows.
Yeah, because
They'll
like,
think,
that's
oh, this
really-
lady stacked money,
And-
and herself and her husband, and
I was building gradually.
they gave one
Honestly,
developer
and
some
stop.
tens of millions and all
do
that.
that stuff. Do the
That's
just
true. That's true.
do the one tomorrow.
Because that's actually very true. Because most people actually think that when you let them know that you own your home, they say
How?
how
You have
how
money.
old are
Exactly.
you?
Exactly.
And you eventually get to tell them that how much do I have? Please, I didn't even have up to 1 million naira to start with. Honestly, my initial deposit was less than 1 million, and
Wow.
you had a home. So that's when they now start listening that it's possible. So the feeling I get is like now that I'm a homeowner, I
Now-
feel like okay, I can actually own more. I guess that's what even puts my interest more in real estate. That's what other ways can you get other apartments. And anytime I'm discussing with people, with maybe friends or any network I find myself, I try to look at, okay, what other means can I actually get real estate? Because real estate money is real money. That's how you create wealth. That's like an easy way to create wealth.
It's also the most consistent because the
Yeah.
price of the
Exactly,
value
yeah.
and price of land always goes
Always
up.
goes up.
It's
yes.
never gone down. Like even if you
Exactly.
buy land like 500K today, in 2 years it would like 2 million.
All right. So the next question I want to ask her, you need to open your ears very well because this is for us that don't have houses
It's for
yet.
us that don't have houses. Though.
She said when she's discussing with her friends, they are always talking about other ways to purchase real estate without putting all of the money down. So please, if there are other things other
discovered.
ideas you've discovered, please share with us now. We'd like to hear.
Okay.
We'd like to
so
hear them.
you would see I'm wearing a branded shirt. It's
Okay.
called Duo.
Duo. Okay.
So that's another way we could actually get a home. Duo
Okay.
is a rent to own scheme.
Okay.
That has also been introduced by Mixta Real Estate. So you can see that company come and buy from them.
Mixta is
because-
definitely
So there's
an
a track
innovative
record of
company.
definitely
Yeah.
alternative. There's the people that have
exactly.
really studied the market and says, these are alternative ways, really, really
bringing
interesting
out-
alternative pathways. So tell us about Duo.
So Duo is a rent-to-own scheme that is introduced by Mixta, another alternative way to get
What does rent to own mean?
okay, I'll get there. Another alternative way to become a homeowner or to get on the
Okay.
home ownership ladder. So rent to own is just as simple as it is. You rent the apartment for a period of time to become the owner of that apartment.
Eventually.
So yes. So Duo in itself, Duo by Mixta, has a particular rental period, which is 3 years. Sorry.
Okay.
So you rent the apartment for 3 years. Afterwards, or during that 3 years, you keep on putting money aside. And for every rent that you pay or any lump sum that you pay, it actually helps you to
Reduce your final balance.
reduce the final
Okay,
outstanding.
so what I want to
on the
say
whole.
is now, for example, if I come and they say the rent is 1 million, but the house is 10 million. If I pay 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, after 3 years, my balance will be 7. I will pay 7 million.
Yes, after with any other accruing interest on it.
What do you mean?
So let me start the process.
Start
So
it.
if you say for the rent to own, if you say you have an interest in owning a home via the Duo scheme, that's the rent to own scheme, they first say you drop an equity contribution,
Okay.
which is say they're about, let me use a simple one, 1
1
million.
million. Okay.
As the equity contribution, and let's say the property as at that date is 10 million. So we take the 1 million out of the 10 million, your initial outstanding
It's
is 9 million.
Okay.
So each year of rent, that's for the 3 year, let's say the rent as well is also 1 million. So that's 3 million that you pay. So 3 million minus 9 million.
So you have 6 remaining.
your outstanding is now 6. 3 million minus 9 million, that's 6 million.
Yeah.
Exactly, as at that last year. But because every year there's an increase in interest, a small amount, like it, that just helps for time value of money. That shows that yes, the money in year 1 is not the same as the money in
Okay,
year
so
4.
there's value appreciation on the
Appreciation on
asset.
it,
Okay.
exactly. So it's just a very little increase. They're about, like, say approximately 15%. So at the end of that particular rental period, say you might
So
end up
it's
having an outstanding of
6.9.
like 6.9 million.
That's
Exactly.
15%.
All right.
Yes.
So I think I have a question now. Who determines how much you would pay as rent? Is it a factor of the market rate for properties, similar properties, within that vicinity, or is it that the developers just come up with an abstract figure and say, "Oh, this is how
This
much
is how
you will
much,
determine
yeah.
as rent"?
Oh, okay.
How does it work?
Of course not. It's not just something that we just wake up and put an
Arbitrary,
amount
yeah.
on it. So it's
Okay.
after making a market analysis,
Okay.
seeing how much exactly does that particular product you're willing to offer. That's a 2-bedroom, fully finished apartment. How much is it currently going for at that
That
area?
neighborhood, okay.
Then aside from that, since we're dealing with the affordable market and we want to push out that product, how much exactly is the company willing to
Underwrite.
say underwrite exactly?
The reason I'm
for
asking this is
that
because Tolu has said the cost, you have done road, you have built the house, you borrowed money, you've imported, inflation has beat you. How, like, literally? So
What is left?
What is left? And you said they should still underwrite.
So for some companies, aside from just looking at all the obligations that they've put down, they also have to think of their vision and their value. And
Okay.
one of Mixta's value is to ensure that it's the foremost real estate development company in Africa. So when we look at that, and we also look at how much the costs that has gone in,
The
we
very
then have
high
to get a
cost.
balance, and we do a market analysis as well, see how much is a 2-bedroom fully finished going for, then we get a particular rate.
I think, Gboyinde, you are really someone everybody needs as a friend.
Yeah,
Because
I
you know
your
how
friends are bought
to
after.
you know how to look for ways to hack
Yeah,
the
I
system
want
in
to
a
ask that. Any of my friends are
positive,
making
way.
obvious.
Well,
A lot of them, but
Well, a lot of my friends already have apartments as well.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
some of them are
Wow.
actually working towards it, because at the end of the day, I get to tell people that even at your age, you don't need to keep your money in the bank and allow the bank to be using your money for something, or wait till you're 40 or 45 before you
Then
have your
start
own
thinking
property.
of- okay.
You start thinking of creating wealth today.
no,
that's the
that's
essence.
very
Show me your friends.
Okay,
and I'll tell you who you
another
are.
thing is the intro. Something from what you said though, something that encouraged you to go the NHF route was the fact that was
the interest was low.
the interest was like the least in the country at the time, right? So for Duo now, is the Duo interest really competitive compared to what you get from a bank or something?
I would say now the interest for Duo, that's the 15% I mentioned, it's actually like the least as well in the country. Because you remember Tolu mentioned that if you go to any commercial bank, you get like 30%. If you go to any any mortgage bank right now, you'll be seeing a range of say 19 to 27 or even 30% as well. So for that dual interest, the 15% is actually the least you can even get from any developer as of today.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think dual is great because it really sort of provides a way for the developers to raise equity.
True.
And has also like met, so it's like killing two birds with one stone, and it's also met the need of people who want to buy, like the end users.
Yeah, I think the second part, the end users, that's,
Bringing
I mean,
them
what it does to
together.
the culture is massive.
Yeah.
Imagine a room filled with, say, 40 people under 40, where 35 people have houses. Where Nigeria is not there yet. But these are the things that can help
will
us get there.
Yeah, these are the things we
You
need to
know?
actually start
Yes.
thinking about that will get us there. You know, I like what you said about 40 people under 40 in a house and 35 people have, but I'm trying to understand something. What if you buy like this dual thing you're saying now?
You don't want to live there, for instance.
So am I now just going to leave it fallow? What other ways can I generate wealth from? Am I just capital appreciation?
I like the way you guys are picking my brain because now I'm to explain that dual can actually go in two channels. You could be a resident and you could be an investor. So
Okay.
you necessarily don't have to live in that apartment. You could just get the property as an investor and sublease the property.
okay.
So what does that mean? If you come in as an investor, you get to pay your equity contribution as well. Let's say 1 million. For the first 3 years, Mixta has given you that property at a flat rental rate of 1 million. You can then decide to rent it out to somebody else at a higher value because every year there's an increase in rent up, and Lagos right now says charge your rent annually.
Yeah.
So the next year you could decide to increase your rents, depending on how much you maintain.
But I
that
want to ask you,
apartment.
like, why would someone rent from when I can rent from Mixta at 1 million?
Well, the person
It
might not
depends.
know.
Okay, no, but also it
And
might be there it might be here for a short period. You don't
Yes.
need to actually go all the way.
Yes.
Okay,
No, I don't
that's
even
fair.
think there's a competition between herself and the developer in this case, because the developer is only collecting rent from people who bought from them.
Fair.
And
So
what
they're
you're
not
paying as rent
working
is even reducing the
different
value
from-
of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Exactly.
fair.
Then the good thing about it is at the end of the rental period as well, you could decide that, I don't want to even buy this property from developer. I just came in as an investor. You could decide then to sell it off to another person
Okay.
and keep the return. You sell it off at the current market rates at that
okay.
year.
And the person now
And-
carries on. The person has
exactly.
paid you, so
Because you
will
have
pay
already
Mixta,
entered.
everybody will settle
Yes.
themselves. Oh, okay, that's
Wow.
very,
Wow.
very
It's a fantastic
interesting.
win-win-win solution for everyone.
All
She's been really
I'm sure a lot
insightful.
of real estate developers are going to listen to this and now start going but you know what, we're here to share.
And it's not easy to actually do a rent-to-own scheme.
I
Most
can
people have
imagine.
tried, but I think one of the great successes is the Lagos State rent-to-own
Okay.
that has actually gone out and is quite successful. But most developers have tried and they haven't been able to meet up. So Mixta is really doing one great thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, ladies, if you don't find a rich man to marry with an apartment, you can do rent alone with duo.
But I mean, you just mentioned the Lagos State rent-to-own
rent-to-own.
scheme. Do you know anybody who's been a beneficiary of that? Because I haven't met anybody yet.
You know, I was going to say that. That's when I say, are you fighting to enter? That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
They will say they will have
It sells
20
out.
slots.
It sells
They will
out.
say they think something at midnight. You get there at 11 o'clock. That's
crazy.
very
Yeah.
Before it opens, it's
Oh,
already
you
over.
need like tribal marks and
Hey,
everything.
just say, I said to
No, it sells out.
We're
But
not-
truly, it does sell out
Sell
like
out,
flash
yeah.
of
Really?
lights.
It does.
Because everybody is always paying attention on the rent-to-own scheme that, when is it coming out? And I think the last one Lagos had was a raffle draw when I think Fashola was around
really?
or something. And they did Ambody, and they did like a raffle draw for people to win. But I don't know anybody personally that had been successful on the rent-to-own scheme, but I know that they've recorded success.
And I think that's why I like the fact that Mixta is doing it, because when the state government is doing it, I think the primary beneficiaries will be people who
are already
are
in that
connected
system.
to that
Yeah,
system.
It's-
You know, but this
it's
way,
private.
we're
Whoever
democratizing it
brings
now.
your money will be
Yeah,
able
you
to
meet the
buy.
requirements,
That's why it
you
sells
have
out.
access to
Before
it.
That's why I said
Even
that
before
the
it gets
in-house
to the
already,
media.
they already sold it.
Exactly, yeah.
That's
And I like
that's very interesting.
and I like where we are. We rent to own. Currently, from what you said it's about 3 years from when you purchase
Yes.
to when you have to pay the final. 3 or 4 years, which is it?
3 years.
3 years, right?
for the rental
So I
period.
mean, I look forward to seeing the future where
People-
it can extend to say 7, 10, 12 years. But that will mean that some of the problems you had mentioned earlier probably get solved somehow.
I mean, I guess the truth matter is this: if you don't have to build a road, the cost of
Exactly,
doing your house is
yeah,
going
yeah.
down.
Yeah, it
That's
goes
like-
down drastically.
Yeah, so if you don't
it
have
takes a
to
lot of
put
you.
water, if you don't have to do, if you move to like a plot of land and all the infrastructure is there, your
Is
cost
there,
is
yes.
all you have to do is literally build a house.
Yeah.
You don't have to start thinking of how you bring water. You don't have to think of how you would bring, do you understand, build
Yeah.
it, suction, put the foundation up to meeting.
a
All of those
particular
things
level.
will be
And
gone.
there's more government support as well, you know,
True,
for
true.
developers. You know, same as they have the
The
NHF
mortgages
funds
for
for
the
the
end users.
homeowners. Yeah,
Okay.
so if there's that as well,
Developers need
they
theirs
can get
as well.
cost at a lower,
Oh well,
you know, cost.
do you really think government will be open to doing that? Seeing that
I think
these are business people
I think the government will do what the government wants to do.
at the end of the day.
And that's what we can count on.
At the end of the
government.
day.
What they want. I tell you
end
that
of the
for
day.
free. So our listeners at home, thank you for rocking with us. Remember, now there's tons of ways to own a home. So don't let anybody stress you, girl. Come and buy from Drew. All right. Till next time. Enjoy.
Sure thing.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.